The Davis estate stood as a beacon of luxury, its towering gates and meticulously manicured lawns announcing its wealth to the world. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of freshly cut roses imported from Europe every week. Yet, despite the splendor, a tension simmered beneath the surface. Chloe Davis lounged on a velvet chaise in her sunlit bedroom, scrolling absent-mindedly through her phone. Her long auburn hair fell in loose waves over her shoulders, and her green eyes reflected the defiance she'd honed over years of rebelling against societal expectations. The room, adorned with crystal chandeliers and silk drapes, was a sanctuary she often retreated to, one where she could escape the suffocating grasp of her stepmother, Victoria Davis. A knock on the door interrupted her peace, sharp and impatient. "Miss Chloe, your stepmother requests your presence in the study," came the clipped voice of Anna, the long-serving housekeeper. Chloe groaned, tossing her phone aside. "Tell her I'm busy." Anna hesitated, her tone softening. "Miss," she said, "it's urgent." Reluctantly, Chloe rose, her silk robe swishing as she made her way to the grand staircase. The study loomed ahead, an imposing room lined with dark mahogany shelves and heavy drapes that blocked out the midday sun. Victoria Davis sat behind a large oak desk, her icy blue eyes sharp and calculating. At 50, Victoria exuded an elegance that demanded attention, her perfectly coiffed blonde hair and tailored designer dress reinforcing her authority. "You wanted to see me?" Chloe asked, leaning against the doorframe, her tone laced with sarcasm. Victoria gestured to the chair opposite her. "Sit." "I'll stand, thanks." Victoria's lips pressed into a thin line, but she continued. "As you know, your father's passing left many things unresolved. It's time to address them." Chloe crossed her arms, suspicion flashing in her eyes. "What's that supposed to mean?" Victoria slid a sleek envelope across the desk. "Your father's will included specific conditions regarding your inheritance. To access your trust fund, you must marry within the year." Chloe's jaw dropped. "You're joking." "I assure you I'm not," Victoria replied, her tone void of emotion. "And I've already chosen your husband." The room fell silent, the weight of Victoria's words hanging between them. Chloe's disbelief quickly gave way to anger. "You've chosen?" she spat. "You think you can dictate my life, like some twisted fairy tale?" Victoria's expression hardened. "This isn't about control, Chloe. It's about ensuring you mature into someone capable of upholding the Davis legacy. Your father trusted me to guide you." Chloe's hands clenched into fists. "I'm not some pawn in your game. Who is it? Who's this perfect husband you've picked?" "Liam Carter," Victoria said, a faint smirk tugging at her lips. "A farmer from Nebraska." The room seemed to tilt as Chloe processed the absurdity of the statement. "A farmer? Are you insane?" "On the contrary," Victoria said coolly. "Liam is hardworking, disciplined, and precisely the kind of influence you need. Your frivolous lifestyle ends now." Chloe shook her head, backing away. "I won't do it." Victoria rose, her commanding presence filling the room. "If you refuse, the will stipulates that the entire estate defaults to me. You'll have nothing, Chloe. No money, no home, no legacy." Chloe's heart pounded, but she refused to show weakness. "You can't force me." Victoria's eyes narrowed, her voice dropping to a menacing whisper. "Are you sure about that? Because I can also make your life very uncomfortable. Oh, and one more thing. Your adoption papers? They might raise some interesting questions about your place in this family." The words hit Chloe like a blow to the chest. "Adoption," she breathed. "What are you talking about?" Victoria smiled coldly. Something to think about, dear. Now, you have 1 month to prepare for your wedding. Dismissed. Chloe stormed out of the study, her mind reeling. The revelation about her adoption, the ultimatum, the threat of losing everything. It was too much. She slammed her bedroom door behind her and collapsed onto her bed, tears stinging her eyes. For the first time in her life, the walls of her gilded cage felt suffocatingly real. But even as doubt and fear gnawed at her, a spark of defiance flared. Chloe Davis wasn't one to back down. If Victoria thought she could win, she was sorely mistaken. The days following Victoria's ultimatum were a whirlwind of chaos for Chloe Davis. The usually vibrant heiress, known for her fierce independence and penchant for defying expectations, now found herself ensnared in a web of manipulation. Her stepmother's words echoed in her mind, each revelation leaving a deeper scar. Chloe sat at her vanity, absently twisting a strand of auburn hair around her finger. The reflection staring back at her seemed foreign, eyes puffy from sleepless nights, her signature confidence replaced by uncertainty. The Davis estate felt less like a home and more like a gilded cage. The silence was broken by a soft knock at the door. "Miss Chloe?" Anna's voice came through timidly. "What is it, Anna?" Chloe replied, her tone sharper than intended. Anna hesitated. "Mrs. Davis asked me to inform you. Mr. Carter will arrive tomorrow for a formal meeting." Chloe groaned, tossing the hairbrush in her hand onto the table. "Fantastic. I'm being paraded like cattle at an auction now?" Anna's eyes softened with sympathy. "Perhaps. He won't be as bad as you think." Chloe shot her a withering look. "He's a farmer, Anna. What could we possibly have in common? The only soil I've touched is at a spa during a facial." Before Anna could respond, Chloe waved her off. "I'll handle it. Thanks." As Anna closed the door, Chloe leaned back in her chair, her mind racing. She knew she had no choice but to meet this man, but she swore she'd make her disdain for this arrangement abundantly clear. The next morning, the Davis estate buzzed with activity. Staff polished every surface, laid out an elaborate spread in the dining room, and ensured the gardens were immaculate. Chloe descended the grand staircase, her silk dress flowing around her like water. She dressed to intimidate, her heels clicking ominously on the marble floors. Victoria awaited her in the foyer, her icy demeanor as unyielding as ever. "You look presentable," she remarked, her tone clipped. Chloe ignored the jab. Let's get this over with." The sound of an approaching car drew their attention. A black sedan pulled into the circular driveway, and from it emerged Liam Carter. He was nothing like Chloe had expected. Dressed in a neatly pressed button-down shirt and jeans, he exuded an understated confidence. His sun-kissed skin and calloused hands hinted at years of hard labor, while his piercing blue eyes carried a quiet intensity. Liam's appearance was a stark contrast to the polished, superficial men Chloe was accustomed to. Victoria greeted him with a practiced smile. "Mr. Carter, welcome to the Davis estate." "Thank you, Mrs. Davis," Liam replied, his deep voice calm and steady. His gaze shifted to Chloe, and for a moment, neither said a word. Chloe noticed a flicker of surprise in his eyes, though he quickly masked it. "This is my stepdaughter, Chloe," Victoria continued. "Chloe, this is Liam Carter." Chloe extended a hand reluctantly. "Pleasure," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Liam hesitated before shaking her hand, his grip firm but not overbearing. "Likewise?" Victoria gestured towards the dining room. "Shall we sit? We have much to discuss." The atmosphere at the table was thick with tension. Chloe picked at her plate, her appetite diminished by the absurdity of the situation. Liam, meanwhile, ate with quiet composure, his every movement deliberate. Victoria dominated the conversation, outlining the conditions of their impending union as though it were a business merger. Chloe finally snapped. "So, let me get this straight," she said, setting her fork down with a clink. "You're being forced into this too?" Liam looked up, his expression unreadable. "I wouldn't use the word forced." "What word would you use then?" Chloe pressed. "Coerced? Manipulated?" Liam leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "Let's just say I had my reasons for agreeing." Chloe's eyes narrowed. What reasons could possibly justify this circus? Liam hesitated, his jaw tightening. "That's personal." "Convenient," Chloe muttered, rolling her eyes. Victoria cut in, her tone icy. "Enough, Chloe. You'll marry Liam, and that's final. The wedding date is set for 1 month from today." Chloe stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "You're insane if you think I'm going along with this." Victoria's calm facade cracked for a moment. "Sit down, Chloe." "No," Chloe said firmly. "I'm done being your pawn." She stormed out of the room, leaving Victoria and Liam behind. The weight of her defiance hung heavy in the air. Later that evening, Chloe sat alone in the estate's sprawling garden. The moon cast a soft glow over the manicured hedges, and the cool night air carried the scent of blooming jasmine. She wrapped her arms around herself, the reality of her situation sinking in. Footsteps approached, and she turned to see Liam. "Mind if I join you?" he asked. Chloe sighed but didn't object. Liam sat on the bench beside her, maintaining a respectful distance. "I didn't mean to offend you earlier," he said after a moment. "This isn't easy for me either." Chloe glanced at him, her expression softening. "Why are you doing this?" Liam looked away, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "My family's farm is in trouble." Victoria offered to help, under one condition. "Marry me," Chloe said bitterly. Liam nodded. "I didn't have a choice." Chloe studied him, searching for any sign of deceit, but found none. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "This isn't fair to either of us." "No, it's not," Liam agreed. "But maybe we can make the best of it." Chloe snorted. "You're awfully optimistic for someone stuck in this mess." Liam offered a small smile. "I've learned that sometimes the only way out is through." They sat in silence for a while, the tension between them easing slightly. For the first time, Chloe saw Liam not as an adversary, but as a fellow prisoner in Victoria's game. As the days passed, the wedding preparations began in earnest. Chloe resisted every step, but Victoria's grip on the estate left her with no viable options. Liam returned to Nebraska to prepare for Chloe's arrival, leaving her to grapple with the impending upheaval of her life. 1 week before the wedding, Chloe sat in her room, staring at her reflection in the mirror. The rebellious fire in her eyes had dimmed, replaced by a quiet resolve. "If I'm going to do this," she murmured to herself, "it'll be on my terms." The morning air in Nebraska carried a crispness Chloe wasn't accustomed to. As the train pulled into the modest station of Meadowbrook, she peered out the window, her expression a mixture of apprehension and disdain. Rolling fields stretched endlessly into the horizon, dotted with barns and silos. It was a stark contrast to the polished streets of Beverly Hills. The train hissed to a halt, and Chloe sighed, adjusting the strap of her designer handbag. She glanced down at her outfit, a tailored blazer and heeled boots, and wondered for the 100th time why she had agreed to this madness. "Miss Davis," a voice called out, breaking her thoughts. She turned to see Liam Carter standing on the platform, his hands tucked into the pockets of his faded jeans. He looked different here, more at ease. The city hadn't suited him, she realized. This rural backdrop, with its open skies and unpretentious charm, seemed to belong to him. Chloe stepped off the train, her heels clicking against the wooden platform. Liam gave her a polite nod, his blue eyes scanning her meticulously styled appearance. "Welcome to Meadowbrook," he said, his tone neutral. Chloe offered a tight smile. "Let's just get this over with." The drive to Liam's farm was quiet, the tension between them palpable. Chloe stared out the truck window, taking in the scenery. She had expected flat, boring land, but there was an understated beauty to the golden fields swaying in the breeze and the wildflowers lining the dirt roads. When they arrived at the farm, Chloe's heart sank. The house was small, its white paint peeling in places. A barn stood in the distance, its red exterior weathered by time. Chickens roamed freely, and a few cows grazed lazily in the pasture. "This is it," Liam said, stepping out of the truck. Chloe hesitated, then followed. The ground was uneven, and her heels sank into the dirt with every step. She let out a frustrated sigh. "Do you always dress like you're going to a board meeting?" Liam asked, a hint of amusement in his voice. "Do you always live like this?" she shot back, gesturing to the surroundings. Liam shrugged. "It's not much, but it's home." Chloe didn't respond, her gaze fixed on the modest house. This was her life now. It felt like a prison sentence. Inside, the house was just as unassuming. The furniture was old but sturdy, the floors creaked with every step, and the air smelled faintly of a wood smoke. A small vase of wildflowers on the dining table was the only attempt at decoration. "I set up a room for you upstairs," Liam said, leading her to a narrow staircase. Chloe followed him to a small bedroom with a twin bed, a wooden dresser, and a window overlooking the fields. A patchwork quilt covered the bed, its colors faded from years of use. "This is cozy," she said, forcing herself to sound polite. "It's the best I could do on short notice," Liam replied, his tone defensive. Chloe sighed. "It's fine, thanks." He nodded and left her to settle in. The next morning, Chloe awoke to the sound of roosters crowing. Groaning, she pulled a pillow over her head, wishing she could silence the racket. But the persistent clucking and mooing forced her out of bed. She dressed quickly in the most casual outfit she had, designer jeans and a silk blouse, and made her way downstairs. Liam was already in the kitchen, frying eggs and bacon. The scent made her stomach growl. "Morning," he said without looking up. "Morning," Chloe mumbled, sitting at the small table. Liam placed a plate in front of her, then poured 2 cups of coffee. Chloe took a sip and nearly gagged. "Is this motor oil?" she asked, setting the mug down. Liam chuckled. "Farm life doesn't come with lattes." Chloe rolled her eyes, but said nothing, picking at her breakfast instead. After breakfast, Liam handed her a pair of work gloves and motioned for her to follow him outside. "What's this for?" she asked warily. "You're helping with chores today." "Excuse me?" Liam smirked. "If you're going to live here, you might as well pitch in." Chloe glared at him, but followed him to the barn. The smell hit her first, earthy and pungent. She wrinkled her nose as Liam explained the day's tasks. Her first assignment was collecting eggs. It sounded simple enough, but the chickens had other plans. One particularly feisty hen pecked at her hand, making her yelp and drop the basket. Liam laughed, leaning against the barn door. "You're unnatural." "Shut up," Chloe muttered, rubbing her hand. Next came feeding the cows. Liam showed her how to toss hay into the troughs, but Chloe's attempts ended with her tripping over a bale and landing in the dirt. By the end of the morning, she was covered in dust and sweat, her designer clothes ruined. That evening, Chloe sat on the porch, nursing her bruised ego. The farm was quiet now, the sky painted in hues of orange and pink as the sun set. Liam joined her, handing her a glass of iced tea. "Tough day?" he asked, sitting beside her. Chloe sighed. "You could say that. You'll get the hang of it," Liam said. "It just takes time." She looked at him, surprised by the gentleness in his tone. "Why are you being nice to me?" "Because we're stuck with each other," Liam said simply. "Might as well try to make it work." Chloe didn't reply, her gaze drifting back to the horizon. For the first time, she felt a flicker of something she couldn't quite name. Respect, maybe. Or was it gratitude? Over the next few days, Chloe began to adapt. She traded her heels for boots, her silk blouses for flannel shirts. The work was hard, but there was a strange satisfaction in it. Liam was patient, teaching her the ropes with a quiet determination. Slowly, the walls between them began to crumble. One afternoon, as they worked side by side in the fields, Chloe asked, "Why do you do this? The farm, I mean. It seems exhausting." Liam paused, leaning on his shovel. "It's not about the work. It's about the legacy. This farm has been in my family for generations. It's who I am." Chloe nodded, her respect for him growing. She had always taken her own wealth for granted, never considering the effort it took to build something from the ground up. As Chloe settled into her new life, a letter arrived that would change everything. It was addressed to her, the handwriting unfamiliar. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a name, Emily Harper. "What's that?" Liam asked, noticing her puzzled expression. "I don't know," Chloe replied, her voice tinged with unease, "but I think it's important." The Nebraska sky stretched endlessly above Chloe as she stood in the middle of Liam's cornfield, her hands on her hips and a deep scowl etched across her face. The humidity was relentless, the sun merciless, and her designer boots were caked with mud. Yet, as she surveyed the rows of corn stretching into the horizon, a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in years bubbled beneath her frustration. Chloe glanced at Liam, who was busy repairing a broken fence nearby. He moved with the kind of quiet determination that both annoyed and fascinated her. His calloused hands seemed to understand the land in a way she never could. It was as if every step he took, every nail he hammered, was part of a language she had yet to learn. She sighed and turned her attention back to the letter in her hand, the one from Emily Harper. It had been sitting on her nightstand for days, its contents haunting her. The cryptic note hinted at truths about her father's intentions and Victoria's schemes. Chloe had debated whether to respond, but every time she tried to call, her courage faltered. Today, however, was different. The farm's financial struggles had become painfully evident. Bills piled up on the kitchen table, and the threatening letters from the bank had turned from polite warnings to ultimatums. Chloe had spent hours going through the farm's accounts, her background in finance proving more useful than she ever expected. Yet no matter how many numbers she crunched, one thing was clear. The farm was on the brink of collapse. "We can't keep doing this," she muttered under her breath. "What was that?" Liam asked, looking up from the fence. Chloe hesitated, then crossed the field to where he stood. "I said, we can't keep doing this, patching things up and hoping for a miracle. This farm needs more than repairs, Liam. It needs a plan." Liam wiped the sweat from his brow, frowning. "You think I don't know that? I've been doing this my whole life, Chloe. The land has its limits." "Then maybe it's time to think outside the box," she said, her tone sharper than intended. "Outside the box?" Liam's voice carried a hint of sarcasm. "You mean like giving up and selling out to developers?" "No," Chloe snapped. "I mean diversifying, adding something new, something profitable." Liam stared at her, his brow furrowed in confusion. Like what? Chloe's frustration boiled over. I don't know yet, but we can't just sit here and wait for the bank to take everything. We have to try something. For a moment, the only sound was the rustling of corn stalks in the breeze. Then Liam sighed. All right. What's your plan? That evening, Chloe sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by stacks of papers and her laptop. Liam watched from the doorway, his skepticism evident. What exactly are you working on? He asked. I've been researching sustainable farming, Chloe replied without looking up. Organic produce, farm-to-table partnerships, even agrotourism. There's a growing market for these things, and the profit margins are much higher. Agrotourism? Liam repeated, raising an eyebrow. You mean turning the farm into a tourist attraction? Not exactly, Chloe said. Think more along the lines of hosting workshops, offering farm stays, or selling products directly to consumers. It's about creating an experience, not just selling crops. Liam folded his arms. And you think that's going to save the farm? I think it's worth a shot, Chloe said firmly. Unless you have a better idea? Liam didn't reply, his expression unreadable. Finally, he nodded. Fine. Let's try it. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. Chloe threw herself into the project with a determination that surprised even her. She convinced Liam to allocate a small section of the farm for an organic vegetable garden, explaining how niche markets could provide a higher return. Together, they set up a modest stand by the roadside, selling fresh produce to passers-by. To her surprise, the community responded positively. Liam's neighbors, initially skeptical of Chloe's ideas, began to warm up to her as they saw her genuine effort. Martha Jenkins, the elderly woman from next door, even offered to help, teaching Chloe how to make preserves and jams to sell alongside the vegetables. One afternoon, as Chloe labeled jars of strawberry jam, Martha patted her hand. You've got a good head on your shoulders, dear. Liam's lucky to have you. Chloe flushed, brushing off the compliment. It's nothing. I just want to help. Don't sell yourself short, Martha said, with a knowing smile. You're doing more than you realize. As the farm's new ventures began to take shape, Chloe and Liam started to find a rhythm. Their initial animosity gave way to a tentative partnership, and Chloe began to see Liam in a new light. He wasn't just a stubborn farmer. He was passionate, resourceful, and deeply connected to the land. One evening, after a long day of work, they sat on the porch watching the sunset. Chloe sipped her iced tea, feeling a sense of accomplishment she hadn't known in years. You've done good work, Liam said, breaking the silence. Chloe glanced at him, surprised. Coming from you, that's high praise. Liam chuckled. Don't let it go to your head. They shared a quiet laugh, and for the first time, Chloe felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this life wasn't so bad after all. But their progress was soon overshadowed by a new threat. One morning, Liam found a man lurking near the barn, snapping photos with a camera. When confronted, the man claimed to be a real estate agent scouting properties. I don't believe him, Liam said later, his jaw tight. Something about him felt off. Chloe agreed, her instincts telling her this was more than a random visit. A few days later, her suspicions were confirmed when she received a call from Emily Harper. Chloe, Emily said urgently, I've been keeping an eye on Victoria's activities. She knows about your work on the farm, and she's not happy. What do you mean? Chloe asked, her stomach sinking. She's sent someone to dig up dirt on you and Liam, Emily replied. You need to be careful. Victoria doesn't play fair. Chloe clenched her fists, anger and fear bubbling inside her. She had come too far to let Victoria ruin everything. Let her try, Chloe said, her voice steely. This time I'm ready. The Nebraska sky was overcast, casting the Carter farm in shades of gray. Chloe paced the living room, her phone pressed to her ear, as Emily Harper's words echoed in her mind. She sent someone to dig up dirt on you and Liam, Emily had warned. Be prepared for anything. Prepared. Chloe scoffed at the thought as she ended the call. How could anyone prepare for the onslaught that was Victoria Davis? Her stepmother's wealth and connections had proven to be a near impenetrable fortress, and now it seemed that fortress was mobilizing against her. Liam entered the room, wiping his hands on a rag. You've been pacing for 10 minutes, he said, his voice steady but concerned. What's wrong? Chloe looked at him, debating how much to share. She hadn't yet told him about Emily's warning, or the man taking photos near the barn. Victoria's not going to stop, she finally said. She's planning something. Liam frowned, tossing the rag onto the counter. Let her. We've been through worse. Chloe admired his calm, but she knew this was different. Victoria's reach was long, and her methods were ruthless. This isn't just about us, Liam, she said. It's about the farm, your family's legacy. She's trying to destroy everything. Liam stepped closer, his eyes meeting hers with quiet determination. Then we'll fight her. Meanwhile, across the country, Victoria was seated in her sprawling Beverly Hills mansion, sipping a glass of Chardonnay. Her lawyer, Richard Lawson, stood by the window, reviewing a stack of papers. Are you sure about this? Richard asked, his tone hesitant. Contesting Chloe's inheritance is risky. If Emily Harper's documents surface in court, they won't, Victoria interrupted, her voice ice cold. Emily is a relic of the past. I've handled her before, and I'll handle her again. Richard adjusted his glasses. Still, filing a petition to contest the will could draw attention. If anyone discovers the circumstances surrounding Mr. Davis's death. Victoria slammed her glass onto the table, the liquid sloshing over the rim. No one will discover anything. Do your job, Richard, or I'll find someone who can. Richard nodded, swallowing his objections. I'll file the petition first thing tomorrow. Victoria leaned back in her chair, a satisfied smirk playing on her lips. Chloe thought she could escape her control, but Victoria had spent years mastering the art of manipulation. She wouldn't lose now. Back at the farm, Chloe threw herself into her work, using the new organic garden as a distraction. She and Liam had expanded their roadside stand, and the response from the community had been overwhelmingly positive. Still, a sense of unease lingered. One evening, as Chloe closed up the stand, she noticed a car parked a little too far down the road to be casual. Its windows were tinted, and its engine idled, as if the driver were waiting for something, or someone. Liam, Chloe called, keeping her eyes on the vehicle. Liam appeared from the barn, wiping grease from his hands. What is it? Chloe gestured toward the car. That's the third time I've seen it this week. Do you think it's connected to Victoria? Liam's jaw tightened. Stay here. Before Chloe could protest, Liam walked toward the car. As he approached, the driver rolled down the window, a middle-aged man with sharp features and a smug expression. Can I help you? Liam asked, his tone neutral but firm. The man smiled, showing too many teeth. Just admiring the scenery. Beautiful property you've got here. Liam's fists clenched. If you've got business, say it. Otherwise you're trespassing. The man chuckled, raising his hands in mock surrender. No harm meant. Just curious about the new operation. Organic farming, right? Interesting choice. Without waiting for a response, the man rolled up his window and drove off, leaving a cloud of dust in his wake. Liam returned to Chloe, his expression grim. "Who was that?" Chloe asked. "Someone who knows too much," Liam replied. "We need to be careful." The following week, Victoria's petition to contest the will made headlines in the local paper. Chloe stared at the front page, her hands trembling, as she read the bold headline: Davis family feud. Widow challenges heiress's claim to fortune. "She's trying to discredit me," Chloe said, her voice hollow. "If she wins, everything my father built will be hers." Liam took the paper from her, his expression dark. "We won't let that happen." The stakes were raised even higher when Emily called again, her voice filled with urgency. "Chloe, I've found something you need to see," she said. "Your father kept detailed records of his business dealings, and they prove he intended for you to inherit everything. But there's more. Something about Victoria's involvement in his death." Chloe's heart raced. "What do you mean?" "Meet me tomorrow," Emily said. "I'll explain everything." That night, Chloe lay awake, her mind racing. Liam slept beside her, his breathing steady and reassuring. She glanced at him, marveling at how much her life had changed since coming to the farm. This place, once a symbol of everything she despised, had become her refuge. And Liam, with his quiet strength, was no longer just her reluctant partner, but her anchor. As dawn broke, Chloe and Liam drove to meet Emily at a small cafe on the outskirts of town. Emily was already there, a folder clutched tightly in her hands. "These are copies of your father's personal records," Emily said, sliding the folder across the table. "Bank statements, letters, even a draft of his will. They prove that he wanted you to have everything." Chloe opened the folder, her eyes scanning the documents. The truth was there in black and white. Her father's unwavering intention to leave her his empire, untainted by Victoria's greed. "But that's not all," Emily said, her voice low. "I also found evidence that your father suspected foul play before his death. He wrote letters to his lawyer, expressing concerns about Victoria's behavior." Chloe's blood ran cold. "Are you saying she poisoned him?" "I can't say for certain," Emily said, "but it's clear she had motive, and there are irregularities in his medical records." Liam placed a hand on Chloe's shoulder, grounding her. "What do we do now?" Emily leaned in, her expression serious. "We fight. But you have to be ready. Victoria won't go down without a fight." As they left the cafe, Chloe felt a renewed sense of purpose. For the first time, she wasn't just reacting to Victoria's schemes, she was taking control. With Emily's evidence and Liam's unwavering support, she was determined to bring Victoria to justice. That night, as Chloe and Liam sat on the porch, she turned to him, her eyes fierce with determination. "This isn't just about my inheritance anymore," she said. "It's about my father's legacy, and making sure Victoria never hurts anyone again." Liam nodded, his expression mirroring her resolve. "We'll take her down. Together." The morning sunlight filtered through the kitchen window of the Carter farmhouse, casting golden rays across the worn wooden table. Chloe sat, her fingers lightly tracing the edge of the coffee cup in front of her. The documents Emily had handed over spread out between her and Liam. The weight of the truth they unveiled lingered in the air like a storm cloud. "She's capable of murder." Chloe's voice was low, barely above a whisper. "She didn't just take advantage of my father. She might have killed him." Liam reached out, covering her trembling hand with his own. "We don't know that yet," he said, though his tone lacked conviction. "But we'll find out. Emily's documents are a start." Chloe nodded, determination hardening her features. "If there's any chance that she poisoned my father, I'll make sure she faces justice." The next step was clear. Chloe and Liam needed more evidence. Emily suggested they meet with Dr. Samuel Blake, the physician who had treated Edward Davis during his final months. He had retired shortly after Edward's death and had been reluctant to speak publicly about the case. However, with Emily's gentle persuasion, he had agreed to a private meeting. In a quiet town an hour away, Chloe and Liam found themselves seated in Dr. Blake's modest living room. The doctor, a kind man in his 70s, with silver hair and kind eyes, offered them tea before settling into his armchair. "I was surprised when Emily reached out to me," Dr. Blake began, his voice tinged with sadness. "I thought I'd left the Davis family behind. Edward was one of my closest friends." "What happened to him?" Chloe asked, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "Why did no one question the circumstances of his death?" Dr. Blake sighed heavily, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. "Edward's health began to decline rapidly in his last 6 months. He complained of fatigue, nausea, and other symptoms that didn't align with any obvious diagnosis. Tests revealed elevated levels of certain compounds in his blood. Compounds consistent with poisoning?" Chloe's breath caught. "Poisoning? You're sure?" The doctor nodded gravely. "I confronted Victoria about it shortly before Edward's passing. She dismissed my concerns, claiming Edward had always had a weak constitution. After his death, she made it clear that speaking out would ruin my career. I was afraid, and I regret it every day." Armed with Dr. Blake's testimony and Emily's documents, Chloe and Liam began piecing together the puzzle of Victoria's schemes. The evidence painted a damning picture: financial fraud, manipulation of Edward's will, and now the likelihood of foul play in his death. "We need a lawyer who can handle this," Liam said, as they sat in the farmhouse kitchen that evening. "Someone with experience in cases like this." Chloe nodded, flipping through the contacts on her phone. "There's someone my father trusted, a corporate attorney named Grace Whitmore. If anyone can help us, it's her." Grace agreed to meet them the following day in Omaha. The lawyer, a sharp-witted woman in her 40s, with piercing gray eyes, listened intently as Chloe laid out the evidence. When Chloe finished, Grace leaned back in her chair, her expression unreadable. "This is a solid foundation," Grace said, her tone measured. "But Victoria Davis is a formidable opponent. Her wealth and influence won't make this easy. If we move forward, you need to be prepared for a long, grueling battle." "I don't care how long it takes," Chloe replied, her voice resolute. "I won't let her get away with this." Back on the farm, life continued amidst the turmoil. Chloe found solace in the routine of farm work, the simplicity of planting seeds and watching them grow. Liam's steady presence became her anchor, his quiet encouragement, reminding her that she wasn't alone in this fight. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Chloe and Liam sat on the back porch, their shoulders brushing. The orange and pink hues of the sky reflected in Chloe's eyes as she spoke. "Do you ever wonder how different our lives would be if we hadn't been forced into this?" she asked softly. Liam glanced at her, a small smile playing at his lips. "Every day," he admitted. "But then, I think about everything we've built together. The farm, the trust, the connection. I wouldn't trade that for anything." Chloe looked down, a faint blush creeping up her cheeks. "Me neither," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Meanwhile, Victoria was growing increasingly desperate. Seated in her lavish study, she reviewed the latest updates from her private investigator. The report confirmed her suspicions. Chloe was gathering evidence against her, and Emily Harper's involvement was a significant threat. "She won't stop," Victoria muttered to herself, her grip tightening on the crystal glass in her hand. She's more like her father than I gave her credit for. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Richard Lawson entered, his expression grim. "We have a problem," he said without preamble. "What now?" Victoria snapped. "Chloe and Liam have retained Grace Whitmore," Richard said. "And they've already filed a counter-petition to your claim. They've also subpoenaed Edward's medical records." Victoria's eyes narrowed. "Then we'll escalate. Find something, anything, we can use against them. I don't care what it takes." As the days turned into weeks, the battle lines were drawn. Chloe and Liam worked tirelessly with Grace and Emily, preparing for the legal fight of their lives. At the same time, they continued to expand the farm's organic ventures, drawing strength from their growing connection to the community. One afternoon, a package arrived at the farmhouse. Chloe opened it to find a USB drive, accompanied by a note. "The truth will set you free." The drive contained surveillance footage from the Davis estate, dated months before Edward's death. In the footage, Victoria could be seen arguing with Edward, her voice dripping with venom, as she accused him of favoring Chloe over her. "You'll regret this, Edward," Victoria spat in the recording. "I'll make sure of it." The evidence was damning, but it also raised more questions. Who had sent the footage, and why now? As Chloe and Liam prepared to take their case to court, the pressure mounted. Victoria's influence loomed large, but so did Chloe's resolve. With Liam by her side and the support of Emily and Grace, she was determined to expose the truth and honor her father's legacy. The chapter ends with Chloe standing on the porch, staring out at the horizon as the first stars begin to appear. Liam joins her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "Whatever happens," he says, "we'll face it together." Chloe nods, her gaze unwavering. Together, the Carter farmhouse buzzed with a quiet determination as the morning sun spilled through the windows. Chloe sat at the kitchen table, her laptop open to a sprawling spreadsheet. Beside her, Liam sifted through papers, his brows furrowed in concentration. The faint hum of the coffee maker filled the air, mingling with the sound of birds outside. "You're sure about this?" Liam asked, glancing up from the bills in his hands. Chloe nodded, her expression firm. "We need the community on our side. If Victoria wants to fight dirty, we're going to fight smarter. And that starts with building alliances." Liam leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his hair. "Not everyone here trusts outsiders, especially someone with your background. But if anyone can convince them, it's you." Chloe's lips twitched into a small smile. "Flattery won't save you from doing the heavy lifting today, Carter." He chuckled, the tension between them easing momentarily. "Wouldn't dream of it." The first step in Chloe's plan was rallying the local community. She and Liam began with their immediate neighbors, starting with Martha Jenkins, the elderly woman who lived just down the road. Known for her sharp tongue and warm heart, Martha had been a pillar of the farming community for decades. Martha greeted them on her porch, her cane tapping against the wooden boards. "Well, if it isn't my favorite reluctant couple," she teased, her eyes twinkling. "What brings you two to my neck of the woods?" Chloe exchanged a glance with Liam before stepping forward. "Martha, we need your help. Victoria is trying to take everything. My inheritance, this farm. And we can't fight her alone." Martha's expression turned serious. She motioned for them to sit on the porch swing. "Tell me everything." As Chloe laid out the situation, Martha listened intently, occasionally nodding or interjecting with questions. When Chloe finished, Martha leaned back, her gaze thoughtful. "You've got guts. I'll give you that," Martha said finally. "But guts won't be enough. You'll need this community to back you up, and that means proving you're one of us." Liam frowned. "What do you mean?" Martha pointed her cane at Chloe. "She's right to want alliances, but actions speak louder than words. You'll need to show people you're here for the long haul, not just to save your inheritance." Chloe squared her shoulders. "What do you suggest?" Martha's lips curved into a sly smile. "The Harvest Festival is next weekend. It's the biggest event in town, and everyone will be there. If you can win them over there, you'll have a fighting chance." The days leading up to the festival were a whirlwind of preparation. Chloe threw herself into the work, helping Liam and Ethan harvest crops, repair fences, and prepare their booth for the festival. Her determination won over Ethan, who had been skeptical of her from the start. "You've got more grit than I gave you credit for," Ethan admitted one evening, as they hauled crates of produce into the barn. "Guess Liam didn't marry a total city slicker after all." Chloe smirked. "I'll take that as a compliment." The Harvest Festival arrived on a crisp autumn morning. The town square was transformed into a bustling hub of activity, with colorful banners, food stalls, and live music. Chloe and Liam set up their booth, showcasing their organic produce and newly launched farm-to-table subscription service. As the day progressed, Chloe mingled with locals, answering questions about their farm and sharing her vision for sustainable agriculture. To her surprise, many were receptive, impressed by her knowledge and passion. But not everyone was so easily swayed. Sarah Collins, a prominent local farmer, approached the booth with a skeptical expression. "You think you can waltz in here with your city upbringing and tell us how to run our farm?" she challenged. Chloe met Sarah's gaze steadily. "I'm not here to tell anyone how to run their farm. I'm here to learn, to contribute, and to make this community stronger. If that means earning your trust one day at a time, so be it." Sarah studied her for a moment before nodding. "We'll see." By the end of the festival, Chloe and Liam's booth had attracted significant attention. Several farmers expressed interest in collaborating, and a few even signed up for their subscription service. It was a small victory, but a meaningful one. As they packed up, Martha approached, her cane tapping against the cobblestones. "You made an impression today," she said with a smile. "But the real work starts now." Chloe nodded, her determination unwavering. "I'm ready." Meanwhile, Victoria's machinations continued in the background. She had sent her private investigator, Alan Grayson, to dig up dirt on Chloe and Liam. Grayson, a man known for his ruthless efficiency, uncovered Liam's past financial troubles and began looking for ways to exploit them. At the same time, Victoria received a call from Richard, her lawyer. "We've hit a snag," Richard said, his voice tense. "Chloe's legal team has filed an injunction to block your petition. They've also subpoenaed Edward's financial records." Victoria's grip tightened on the phone. "Then find a way to stop them. I don't care what it takes." Richard hesitated. "There's more. Emily Harper has been working with Chloe, and she claims to have documents that could undermine your case." Victoria's eyes narrowed. "Handle it, Richard, and make sure Emily understands the consequences of crossing me." As the weeks went on, Chloe and Liam's efforts began to pay off. The farm's organic produce gained traction, and their subscription service grew steadily. More importantly, Chloe felt a growing sense of belonging in the community. She was no longer the outsider. She was one of them. One evening, as Chloe and Liam sat on the porch, watching the stars, Liam spoke. "You've come a long way, Chloe. I'm proud of you." Chloe smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. "I couldn't have done it without you." Their moment of peace was interrupted by the sound of a car approaching. They exchanged a wary glance before heading down the steps, A sleek black car pulled up, and Alan Grayson stepped out, holding a manila envelope. "What do you want?" Liam demanded. Grayson smirked, handing the envelope to Chloe. "Consider this a friendly warning. Drop the case, or things will get unpleasant." As Grayson drove away, Chloe opened the envelope, her hands trembling. Inside were photos of Liam meeting with a banker years ago, along with fabricated documents suggesting he had engaged in fraud. Liam's face darkened. "She's trying to discredit me." Chloe's jaw tightened. "Then we'll hit back harder." The farm awoke to the soft hum of possibility. Golden rays of the early morning sun lit the fields, bathing everything in a warm glow. For Chloe and Liam, the dawn felt like the start of a new chapter. Their booth's success at the Harvest Festival had brought in new interest, and the farm's organic produce subscription service was officially up and running. Chloe stood in the kitchen, her laptop open on the counter, as she typed furiously. Beside her was a steaming cup of coffee, untouched, as her focus remained locked on perfecting the financial projections for their new ventures. "You've been at that since 5. Liam's voice broke the silence. He entered the kitchen, his boots leaving faint tracks of dirt on the floor. "You're going to burn yourself out." Chloe looked up, her dark brown eyes sparkling with determination. "Not when we're this close. The numbers look good, Liam. If we can keep up this momentum, we'll be out of the red within 6 months." Liam stepped closer, leaning against the counter. "I don't know how you do it, but I'm starting to think you were made for this." Chloe chuckled. Who would have thought? Beverly Hills Chloe Davis, knee-deep in dirt and loving it. Liam smirked, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face. "You're doing more than loving it. You're thriving." The Carter farm had become a hub of activity. Trucks arrived to pick up produce for delivery to nearby towns, while local farmers came by to exchange tips and stories. Chloe had earned their respect, not by her words, but through her actions. She was seen hauling crates, mending fences, and brainstorming innovative ways to market their products. The farm's success, however, hadn't gone unnoticed by Victoria. From her penthouse suite in Los Angeles, she seethed as she watched reports from her private investigator, Alan Grayson. "She's making progress," Grayson reported over the phone. "The farm is gaining traction, and the community is rallying around her." Victoria's voice was cold. "She's more resourceful than I gave her credit for. But no matter. We have a trump card." Grayson hesitated. "About that. The evidence we fabricated against Liam is thin. If they dig too deep, it could backfire." Victoria's lips curled into a malicious smile. "Then we'll make sure they don't have the chance." Meanwhile, Chloe was finalizing the next steps for their expansion. The plan to diversify their crops had already shown promising results. With Liam's knowledge of farming and Chloe's business acumen, they had cultivated a new field of organic herbs that was generating significant interest. As they reviewed their progress, Ethan walked in, holding a letter. "This came for you," he said, handing it to Chloe. Chloe's heart sank when she saw the envelope. It bore the logo of a law firm, Victoria's Lawyers. "What does it say?" Liam asked, his brow furrowing. Chloe opened the letter and quickly scanned its contents. Her hands trembled as she read the thinly veiled threat. If she didn't abandon her inheritance claim, Victoria would release damning accusations about Liam's past. "She's trying to discredit us," Chloe whispered. "She knows we're gaining ground, so she's resorting to blackmail." Liam clenched his fists. "Let her try. I have nothing to hide." But Chloe wasn't convinced. "This could ruin everything we've worked for, Liam. We need to act smart." That evening, as the family gathered for dinner, Chloe shared the contents of the letter. Ethan, who had become fiercely protective of his brother and the farm, was livid. "She can't get away with this," Ethan said, slamming his hand on the table. "We should take her down." "We will," Chloe replied calmly, "but we'll do it our way." The plan they devised was twofold. First, they would continue to build community support, showing that the farm was thriving despite Victoria's threats. Second, they would gather evidence to counter her claims and expose her true nature. The following week was a turning point. Chloe organized a community gathering at the farm, inviting local farmers, suppliers, and even small-town journalists. The event showcased the farm's progress and emphasized its role as a vital part of the community. As the sun set and the gathering came to a close, Martha Jenkins stood to speak. "I've lived in this town for over 60 years, and I've seen a lot of folks come and go. But what Chloe and Liam have done here is nothing short of remarkable. They've not only saved this farm, but reminded us all of what's possible when we work together." The crowd erupted into applause, and Chloe felt a surge of pride. For the first time, she truly felt like she belonged. But Victoria wasn't done yet. That night, Alan Grayson paid a visit to the farm, under the cover of darkness. He planted forged documents in Liam's truck, hoping to create a trail of evidence that would support Victoria's claims. The next morning, as Chloe and Liam prepared for another busy day, they were interrupted by the arrival of the sheriff. He held a warrant and explained that he needed to search the property. "What's this about?" Liam asked, his voice steady but tense. The sheriff hesitated. "We received an anonymous tip about financial misconduct." Chloe's heart sank. This is Victoria's doing. The search turned up the planted documents, and Liam was taken into custody for questioning. Chloe's world felt like it was crumbling, but she refused to give up. At the courthouse, Chloe confronted Victoria, who was there to witness the fallout of her scheme. "You won't win," Chloe said, her voice firm. "I'll prove Liam's innocence, and I'll expose you for the fraud you are." Victoria smirked. "Good luck, darling. You'll need it." Chloe and Ethan worked tirelessly to clear Liam's name. They enlisted the help of Emily Harper, who had connections with investigative journalists. Together, they uncovered surveillance footage from a local diner, showing Grayson planting the documents in Liam's truck. The evidence not only exonerated Liam, but also implicated Victoria in a broader conspiracy. Chloe presented the findings to the sheriff, who had no choice but to release Liam and open an investigation into Victoria's activities. The hum of activity on the farm had returned, though the recent ordeal with Victoria lingered in the air like a storm that had just passed. Chloe and Liam worked tirelessly to regain a sense of normalcy, but the scars of the battle were evident in their shared glances and quiet moments. One evening, after a particularly grueling day, Chloe and Liam sat on the back porch. The golden hues of the setting sun bathed the farm in an ethereal light, a rare moment of peace in their tumultuous lives. "You know," Chloe began, her voice soft but tinged with curiosity, "I've been thinking about what Victoria tried to use against you. That dark secret she was so eager to exploit. Liam, is there something I should know?" Liam leaned back, his hands gripping the arms of his chair tightly. His green eyes stared into the distance, a storm brewing behind them. "It's not something I'm proud of," he admitted. "But if we're going to keep fighting this battle together, you deserve to know the truth." Liam took a deep breath and began his story. Years ago, he'd owned another farm in Kansas, one he had inherited from his parents. It was everything he had ever wanted, a dream built from generations of hard work and sacrifice. But that dream had crumbled under the weight of a single mistake. "I trusted the wrong people," Liam said, his voice heavy with regret. "A business partner came along, promising the world a chance to expand, to turn the farm into something extraordinary. I was naive, eager to believe in the possibilities. Chloe listened intently, her hand reaching out to cover his. "What happened?" she prompted gently. "They took everything," Liam continued. "The loans, the investments, it was all a scam. I lost the farm, my parents' legacy, and a piece of myself. I ended up here in Nebraska, determined to rebuild, but always haunted by that failure." Chloe felt a pang of sorrow for Liam. "You've carried this alone all these years?" Liam nodded. "I thought if I worked hard enough, I could bury it. But Victoria, she must have dug it up, hoping to use it against us." Chloe squeezed his hand. "Liam, your past doesn't define you. What you've built here, the person you are now, that's what matters." Their conversation was interrupted by Ethan, who rushed onto the porch, his face pale. "We've got trouble," he said, holding up a crumpled letter. "This came in the mail today." Chloe took the letter and read it aloud. It was a foreclosure notice. The bank, likely under pressure from Victoria, was demanding immediate repayment of the farm's debts. If they didn't comply, the property would be seized within 30 days. "This can't be a coincidence," Chloe said, her jaw tightening. "Victoria's behind this. She won't stop until she destroys everything." Determined not to let Victoria win, Chloe and Liam devised a plan to raise the necessary funds. They decided to hold a harvest festival fundraiser, inviting the entire community to support the farm. Chloe poured all her energy into organizing the event, reaching out to local businesses, farmers, and artisans to contribute. Martha Jenkins, the farm's elderly neighbor, offered her unwavering support. "You've done so much for this town already," she said. "It's time we returned the favor." Ethan, who had become a steadfast ally, rallied local musicians to provide entertainment. The entire town seemed to come alive with anticipation, eager to stand against the looming threat. The Harvest Festival was a resounding success. Families flocked to the farm, enjoying the fresh produce, handmade goods, and live music. Chloe and Liam worked tirelessly, greeting visitors and sharing their vision for the farm's future. As the event drew to a close, a man approached Chloe. He was older, with a weathered face and kind eyes. "You're Chloe Davis, aren't you?" he asked. Chloe nodded, curiosity piqued. "Yes, I am. Can I help you?" The man hesitated before pulling a folded piece of paper from his pocket. "I think this belongs to you." Chloe unfolded the paper and gasped. It was a letter from her father, written shortly before his death. In it, he expressed his deep love for Chloe and his fears about Victoria's intentions. The letter also mentioned an unknown bank account he had set up in Chloe's name, containing funds meant to protect her in case of an emergency. As Chloe processed this new information, Victoria's machinations continued. From her opulent Los Angeles penthouse, she directed her investigator, Alan Grayson, to accelerate their efforts to undermine Chloe and Liam. "She's resilient," Victoria admitted, swirling a glass of wine. "But everyone has their breaking point. Find it." Grayson, however, was growing uneasy. "Ma'am, Chloe's building a strong case against you. If this continues, we could face serious consequences." Victoria's icy glare silenced him. "I don't pay you to worry. I pay you to ensure I win." Armed with her father's letter, Chloe approached the bank. With the help of Emily Harper, who had been quietly gathering evidence against Victoria, they confronted the bank's management. Chloe presented the letter, the hidden account, and documentation, proving that Victoria had pressured the bank to issue the foreclosure notice. Faced with undeniable evidence, the bank agreed to reverse its decision and extend the farm's loan. As Chloe and Liam left the bank, a sense of triumph filled the air. They had outmaneuvered Victoria once again, but they knew the battle was far from over. That evening, Chloe and Liam sat under the stars, reflecting on the day's events. "We've come so far," Chloe said, her voice filled with determination. "But Victoria won't stop until she's destroyed." Liam wrapped an arm around her. "Then we'll keep fighting. Together." Just as they began to relax, Chloe's phone buzzed with a new message. It was from Emily, and it contained a single sentence. "I've found something. Meet me tomorrow. This changes everything." Chloe looked at Liam, her heart pounding. "It's not over yet." The morning dawned crisp and clear, with a faint mist hovering over the Carter farm. Chloe's thoughts were turbulent as she prepared for her meeting with Emily Harper. The urgency of the message was unmistakable, and Chloe could feel the weight of what Emily might have uncovered. Liam, ever her stalwart companion, insisted on accompanying her, knowing the risks they faced whenever Victoria's name was involved. "You're not facing this alone," Liam said firmly as they drove toward the small cafe where Emily had arranged to meet. The cafe, a quaint establishment tucked into a quiet corner of town, was bustling with the usual morning crowd. Chloe and Liam spotted Emily at a secluded corner table, a folder placed protectively in front of her. "Thank you for coming," Emily greeted them, her tone low but urgent. "What I'm about to show you will blow this case wide open." Emily opened the folder to reveal a series of documents, photographs, and correspondence. She explained that Victoria had not only manipulated Chloe's father's will, but had also embezzled millions from Anderson Enterprises over the years. Emily had spent months digging into hidden accounts, offshore transfers, and questionable business deals, all of which led directly back to Victoria. "This is the smoking gun," Emily said, sliding a particularly damning document across the table. "This proves Victoria orchestrated Edward's death to secure control of his estate." Chloe's hands trembled as she read the document. It was a contract between Victoria and a shady pharmaceutical company, detailing the purchase of a drug known to mimic natural causes of death. The timeline matched her father's sudden illness and passing. "She killed him," Chloe whispered, anger and grief intertwining in her voice. "She did all this to take everything from him and from me." Liam placed a comforting hand on hers. "We'll make sure she pays for what she's done." The group knew they needed a public stage to expose Victoria, somewhere she couldn't spin the narrative in her favor. The perfect opportunity presented itself in the form of the annual Anderson Foundation Charity Gala, an event Victoria had planned to host in Los Angeles. "She'll be surrounded by her high society friends and business partners," Chloe said, a spark of determination lighting her eyes. "We'll reveal everything there." Emily volunteered to present the evidence, but Chloe insisted on being the one to confront Victoria. "This is my fight," she declared. "She's taken so much from me. It's time I take it back." The night of the gala arrived, and the atmosphere at the luxurious Anderson estate was one of opulence and extravagance. Chloe and Liam arrived, blending seamlessly into the crowd of glittering gowns and tailored tuxedos. Despite the glamour around her, Chloe's focus was razor-sharp. Victoria, radiant in a designer gown, held court in the center of the room, her signature smile hiding her scheming mind. She didn't notice Chloe and Liam until it was too late. "What are you doing here?" Victoria asked, her voice laced with barely concealed disdain. "I'm here to tell the truth," Chloe replied, her voice steady but fierce. "To show everyone exactly who you are." Chloe stepped onto the stage, her heart pounding, but her resolve unwavering. As the room quieted, she addressed the crowd. "Thank you all for coming tonight," she began. This foundation was built on my father's legacy, a legacy that has been tainted by lies and betrayal. Gasps rippled through the audience as Chloe laid out the evidence, her voice unwavering, despite the gravity of her accusations. She exposed Victoria's embezzlement, her fraudulent dealings, and finally, her involvement in Edward Anderson's death. When Chloe revealed the incriminating document, Victoria's mask cracked. "You have no proof," Victoria hissed, her composure slipping. "I have more than enough," Chloe countered. Emily stepped forward, presenting the gathered evidence to the audience. The room erupted in whispers and shocked exclamations. Just as Victoria attempted to regain control of the narrative, police officers entered the room. Liam had contacted the authorities ahead of time, ensuring they were ready to act. The officers moved toward Victoria, who protested vehemently. "This is a setup," Victoria screamed as they placed her in handcuffs. "You'll regret this, Chloe." Chloe stood tall, her eyes meeting Victoria's with unyielding resolve. "No, Victoria. The only one who will regret anything is you." As Victoria was escorted out, Chloe felt a wave of relief wash over her. The battle was far from over, but this victory was a significant step toward justice. Back at the farm, the quiet of the night was a stark contrast to the chaos of the gala. Chloe and Liam sat together under the stars, their hands intertwined. "She won't stop," Chloe said softly, her voice tinged with both determination and weariness. "No, she won't," Liam agreed. "But neither will we." Chloe smiled, leaning into him. "For the first time, I feel like I'm truly fighting for something worth saving." The chapter closed with Chloe's phone buzzing with a message from their lawyer. "The court date is set," the message read. "Be prepared." As the stars glittered above them, Chloe and Liam prepared for the next chapter in their battle against Victoria, their bond stronger than ever. The morning sun rose over the Carter farm, casting a soft golden glow across the fields. For the first time in months, Chloe felt a faint sense of peace. The weight of the battle against Victoria had momentarily lifted after her stepmother's dramatic arrest. The quiet hum of the farm's morning routine filled the air, but Chloe knew this was only the beginning of rebuilding what had been torn apart. As Chloe brewed coffee in the modest kitchen, Liam entered, his hair tousled from sleep. "Morning," he greeted with a warm smile. "How are you holding up?" "Better," Chloe admitted, handing him a steaming mug. "But there's still so much to do. We've won one battle, but Victoria's shadow isn't gone yet." Liam nodded solemnly. "We'll face whatever comes next together." The news of Victoria's arrest spread quickly through the small Nebraska town. Many of the townspeople, who had been skeptical of Chloe at first, began to see her in a new light. She wasn't just a wealthy heiress anymore. She was a fighter who had stood up for her late father's legacy and the community's well-being. Martha Jenkins, Liam's elderly neighbor, arrived with a freshly baked pie and a warm smile. "You've done this town proud, Chloe," she said, patting Chloe's hand. "We're all rooting for you." Even Ethan, Liam's younger brother, who had been wary of Chloe from the start, offered his grudging respect. "You've got grit, Chloe. I didn't think you had it in you." Chloe smiled, her resolve strengthening with every word of encouragement. She decided to organize a town meeting to share her plans for the future, not just for the farm, but for the entire community. The town hall was packed with locals, all eager to hear what Chloe had to say. Standing at the podium, with Liam by her side, Chloe addressed the crowd. "This farm isn't just a piece of land," she began. "It's a symbol of resilience, of hope, and of what we can achieve together." She outlined her vision, expanding the farm's organic initiatives, creating jobs for locals, and using a portion of her inheritance to establish a fund for struggling farmers in the area. The room erupted in applause, and for the first time, Chloe felt like she truly belonged. "Count me in," Ethan said, stepping forward. "Let's make this work." Back on the farm, Chloe and Liam threw themselves into their work. Chloe used her financial acumen to renegotiate contracts with suppliers, while Liam focused on implementing the sustainable practices they had planned. They hired locals to help with the harvest, turning the farm into a bustling hive of activity. One evening, as they worked late into the night, Chloe looked around at the lively scene. "This is what my father would have wanted," she said, her voice tinged with emotion. Liam placed an arm around her shoulders. "He'd be proud of you, Chloe. I know I am." Just as things seemed to be settling down, a letter arrived that sent shockwaves through Chloe's world. It was from the family lawyer, informing her of another potential heir to her father's fortune, a half-brother named Michael, whom she had never known existed. "What do you make of this?" Chloe asked Liam as they read the letter together. Liam frowned. "It's unexpected, but if it's true, it could change everything." Chloe's initial reaction was a mix of shock and anger. Why didn't my father tell me? Why keep something like this a secret? Determined to get answers, Chloe decided to reach out to Michael. With the lawyer's help, she arranged a meeting at a neutral location. Liam insisted on accompanying her, knowing how emotionally charged the situation could become. Michael, a rugged man in his early 30s, arrived at the small cafe looking guarded. His piercing blue eyes studied Chloe with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. "So, you're the golden child," he said, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "And you're the secret my father never mentioned," Chloe shot back, her voice calm but firm. The tension between them was palpable, but as they talked, it became clear that Michael harbored deep resentment toward Edward Anderson. "He abandoned my mother," Michael said bitterly, "left us to fend for ourselves while you lived in luxury." Chloe felt a pang of guilt, but stood her ground. "I didn't choose the life I was born into, Michael, but I'm here now, and I want to find a way forward." Despite their rocky start, Chloe and Michael found common ground in their shared grief and a desire to uncover the truth about their father. Michael revealed that he had been approached by Victoria in the past, who had tried to manipulate him into challenging Chloe's inheritance. "She's dangerous," Michael warned. "If we're going to take her down for good, we need to be smart." Chloe nodded. "Then let's work together. This isn't just about the money. It's about protecting what's rightfully ours." As Chloe and Michael began to dig deeper into Victoria's dealings, they uncovered a web of corruption that extended far beyond the family fortune. Victoria's associates, desperate to protect their own interests, started to retaliate. One night, as Chloe and Liam returned from town, they found the farm's barn set ablaze. The fire raged uncontrollably, and despite their efforts, much of the structure and equipment was destroyed. "This was a warning," Liam said grimly as they surveyed the damage. Chloe's resolve hardened. "They can destroy buildings, but they can't break us. We'll rebuild, stronger than ever." In the aftermath of the fire, Chloe received another letter from the lawyer. It contained a hidden clause in her father's will that could change the course of everything. The clause stipulated that if any direct blood relatives surfaced, the inheritance would be split equally, unless Chloe could prove she was the rightful heir beyond any doubt. As Chloe stared at the document, a mix of determination and fear washed over her. "This fight isn't over," she said to Liam. "Not by a long shot." Liam took her hand, his eyes filled with unwavering support. "Then we'll keep fighting. Together." Chloe sat at the worn wooden table in the farmhouse kitchen, the faint scent of burnt wood lingering from the barn fire. The letter from her family lawyer lay open before her, its contents spinning in her mind like a relentless storm. The hidden clause in her father's will, the revelation of Michael's existence, and the threat to her inheritance. It all felt like an intricate puzzle, with pieces that didn't quite fit. Liam entered, his sleeves rolled up, dirt streaking his shirt from rebuilding efforts. "You've been staring at that letter for hours," he said softly, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Chloe sighed. "This changes everything, Liam. If Michael challenges me, I could lose everything. But it's not just about the inheritance. It's about the truth." Liam nodded. "Then let's find the truth, Chloe. Whatever it takes." The next morning, Chloe and Liam drove to a quiet diner on the outskirts of town to meet Michael. The tension was palpable as they entered, spotting him seated in a corner booth. He looked up, his piercing blue eyes studying them as they approached. "Chloe." "Liam." Michael greeted curtly, motioning for them to sit. Chloe wasted no time. "I want to know why my father never told me about you. Why he kept you hidden." Michael leaned back, his expression a mix of anger and pain. "You think I have the answers. All I know is that he left a mother when I was 5. We struggled for years while you lived a life of luxury." "I didn't even know you existed," Chloe countered, her voice tinged with guilt. "But now that I do, I want to make things right." Michael scoffed. "And what does making things right mean to you? Splitting the fortune?" "It means finding the truth," Chloe said firmly. "And if that means sharing, then so be it. But I need to know the whole story." Michael agreed to help Chloe dig into their father's history. Together with Liam, they combed through old photographs, letters, and business records, piecing together Edward Anderson's life. They discovered that Edward had indeed tried to support Michael and his mother financially, but Victoria had intercepted the funds. "She cut us off," Michael said, his voice thick with bitterness. "Made it look like he didn't care." Chloe's heart sank. "I'd no idea. She manipulated all of us." Liam placed a hand on Michael's shoulder. "But now we know the truth. That's something she can't take away." As Chloe, Liam, and Michael dug deeper, Victoria's network of associates retaliated. One night, the farmhouse was vandalized, windows shattered, hateful messages scrawled across the walls. Chloe found a threatening note, pinned to the door. "Drop the case, or face the consequences." "This is getting out of hand," Liam said, his jaw clenched. "We need to get the police involved." "We can't back down," Chloe insisted, her eyes blazing with determination. "If we do, they win." Michael nodded in agreement. "They've taken enough from us already. It's time we fought back." While reviewing Edward's old correspondence, Chloe discovered a letter from Emily Harper, her father's trusted assistant. The letter hinted at a secret meeting Edward had arranged shortly before his death. Chloe and Michael tracked down Emily, who had gone into hiding after Victoria's threats. "I never thought I'd see the day you two would find each other," Emily said, her voice trembling with emotion as she greeted Chloe and Michael. "Your father would be so proud." Emily revealed that Edward had suspected Victoria's schemes and had been preparing to expose her before his untimely death. She handed Chloe a sealed envelope, its contents potentially damning for Victoria and her associates. "What's inside?" Chloe asked, her hands trembling. "Everything," Emily replied. "Proof of fraud, embezzlement, and even evidence that Victoria was involved in his death." That night, back at the farmhouse, Michael sat alone on the porch, staring at the stars. Chloe joined him, offering a cup of coffee. "You okay?" she asked, sitting beside him. Michael sighed. I've spent my whole life resenting you, thinking you had everything I never did. But now I see we were both victims of her games. Chloe placed a hand on his arm. We can't change the past, Michael, but we can change what happens next. Together. Michael nodded, a faint smile crossing his lips. You're not so bad, Chloe. And you're not as scary as I thought, she teased, earning a chuckle from him. With Emily's evidence in hand, Chloe and Michael filed a new case against Victoria, accusing her of fraud and wrongful death. The case made headlines, and the pressure on Victoria's associates intensified. One by one, they began to turn on her, providing additional testimony and evidence. During a tense courtroom hearing, Chloe faced Victoria for the first time since her arrest. Victoria, looking haggard and defeated, glared at Chloe with venomous hatred. You think you've won? Victoria sneered. This isn't over. Chloe met her gaze with unwavering resolve. Yes, it is. You can't hurt us anymore. Just as Chloe and Michael thought they had uncovered everything, the family lawyer approached them with another bombshell. There's one more clause in the will, he said, handing them a document. It specifies that the rightful heir must prove their commitment to preserving Edward's legacy within 1 year, or the inheritance will go to charity. What does that mean? Chloe asked, her heart pounding. It means you have to demonstrate that the farm, the business, and the foundation are thriving, the lawyer explained. It's a test of your dedication. Chloe exchanged a determined look with Liam and Michael. Then we'll make it happen. The morning sunlight poured through the wide windows of the farmhouse, illuminating the stacks of legal documents, financial records, and blueprints scattered across the dining table. Chloe, Liam, and Michael sat together, deep in discussion. The challenge posed by the hidden clause in Edward's will was daunting, but it had also ignited a shared determination. Chloe looked up, her face set with resolve. This isn't just about keeping the inheritance anymore. It's about proving we're worthy of it. Michael nodded, his arms crossed over his chest. And showing everyone that we can rebuild this farm into something our father would be proud of. Liam placed a supportive hand on Chloe's. We've come this far. Let's finish what we started. The trio threw themselves into transforming the farm. Chloe used her financial expertise to secure grants and funding for sustainable farming initiatives. Michael's connections in the local business community helped them establish partnerships with eco-conscious retailers. Meanwhile, Liam worked tirelessly in the fields, leading a small team of local workers in planting the first crops of organic vegetables and fruits. To further their mission, Chloe and Michael organized a series of community events, inviting local families to tour the farm and learn about their vision. They even launched a crowdfunding campaign, which quickly gained traction, thanks to their compelling story of perseverance and legacy. During one such event, a young girl tugged at Chloe's sleeve. "Are you the lady who saved the farm?" she asked, her wide eyes filled with admiration. Chloe knelt down to the girl's level, her heart swelling. "I didn't do it alone," she said, gesturing toward Liam and Michael. It was a team effort. Despite their progress, the journey wasn't without obstacles. A severe storm threatened to destroy the fledgling crops, forcing everyone to work through the night to protect them. Liam led the charge, coordinating efforts to secure the fields and prevent flooding. As the storm raged, Chloe stood by Liam's side, drenched but determined. "We're not giving up," she said, her voice firm over the howling wind. Liam nodded, his face streaked with mud. "Not now, not ever." The next morning, as the skies cleared, they surveyed the damage. Though some crops were lost, the majority had survived thanks to their efforts. The experience only strengthened their resolve. Meanwhile, from her prison cell, Victoria orchestrated a final attempt to sabotage Chloe's efforts. She convinced one of her loyal associates to spread false rumors about the farm's financial instability, causing potential investors to back out. Chloe was devastated when she received the news. "It's like she's still pulling strings, even from behind bars," she said, slamming a folder shut. Michael, however, refused to be discouraged. "Let her play her games. We'll prove her wrong, just like we always do." Together, they doubled down on their efforts, rallying the community to support the farm and counter the negative press. A heartfelt video Chloe posted online went viral, showcasing their hard work and dedication to Edward's legacy. The video attracted the attention of influential figures in the agricultural industry, including Emma Brooks, a renowned advocate for sustainable farming. Emma visited the farm and was impressed by their vision. "This is exactly the kind of initiative we need more of," Emma said, shaking Chloe's hand. "I'd like to feature your story at our upcoming national conference." The conference proved to be a turning point. Chloe delivered a powerful speech about resilience, family, and the importance of preserving the land for future generations. The audience gave her a standing ovation, and several organizations offered to collaborate with the farm. Back at the farm, the bonds between Chloe, Liam, and Michael continued to deepen. One evening, as they sat around a bonfire, Michael raised a toast. "To Dad," he said, lifting his glass, "and to the family he built, however unconventional it may be." Chloe smiled, her eyes glistening. "To the legacy we're creating together," Liam added, "and to never giving up, no matter what." The clinking of glasses echoed into the night, a testament to their shared determination and newfound sense of unity. With the farm's future looking brighter, Chloe proposed a new venture, a foundation dedicated to supporting struggling farmers and promoting sustainable practices nationwide. The foundation, named Edward's Legacy, would use a portion of Chloe's inheritance to provide grants, education, and resources. "This isn't just about us anymore," Chloe explained during a meeting with local leaders. "It's about ensuring that every farmer has the tools they need to succeed." The idea was met with overwhelming support, and Edward's Legacy quickly became a beacon of hope for farmers across the country. As the foundation gained momentum, Chloe received an unexpected offer from a major corporation to serve as their sustainability consultant. The position would provide significant resources for the foundation, but would require Chloe to leave the farm temporarily. Liam's face fell as Chloe shared the news. "You're considering this, aren't you?" Chloe hesitated, torn between her commitment to the farm and the opportunity to make an even greater impact. "I don't know, Liam. It's a chance to expand what we're doing here, but it means leaving," Liam finished, his voice heavy. The room fell silent, the weight of the decision hanging over them. The golden glow of dusk spilled over the farm's rolling fields, casting long shadows as Chloe paced the porch. In her hand, she held the offer letter from Green Horizons, one of the largest sustainability-focused corporations in the country. The position promised access to cutting-edge technology and a platform to influence agricultural policies on a national scale. But the thought of leaving the farm, her new home, her family, and Liam tugged at her heart. Liam sat on the porch steps, gazing out at the horizon. "Oh, you're really considering it, aren't you?" he asked softly, not turning to face her. Chloe hesitated, guilt and determination warring within her. "It's not that simple, Liam. This isn't just a job. It's a chance to take what we've built here and help farmers everywhere." Liam finally looked up, his expression a mixture of understanding and hurt. "And what happens to us, Chloe? To this farm?" Can you really just walk away? That night, Chloe lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. Memories of the past year flooded her mind. Her first clumsy attempts at farm work, the late-night talks with Liam, the shared victories and defeats. This farm had become her sanctuary, a place where she had discovered who she truly was. But the thought of leaving the farm felt like betraying that growth. Meanwhile, Liam sat at the kitchen table, a cup of coffee growing cold in his hands. He wrestled with his own fears, losing Chloe, the uncertainty of running the farm without her, and the possibility that their relationship might not survive the separation. Yet, he couldn't ignore the pride he felt in Chloe's passion for helping others. In the days that followed, Chloe threw herself into her work with Edward's legacy. The foundation was rapidly gaining traction, with donations pouring in and partnerships forming with other organizations. At a community meeting, Chloe outlined her vision for expanding the foundation's reach. "This isn't just about one farm," she told the crowd. "It's about creating a movement, one that empowers farmers to embrace sustainable practices and build stronger communities." The audience erupted in applause, but Chloe couldn't ignore the shadow of doubt that loomed over her. Could she lead this movement and still hold on to the life she had built with Liam? One afternoon, Liam walked through the fields, the familiar scent of freshly tilled earth surrounding him. He paused at the edge of the property, where a new plot of organic vegetables was flourishing, one of Chloe's many contributions to the farm. Martha Jenkins, their elderly neighbor, approached him with a basket of fresh-baked cookies. "You're proud of her, aren't you?" she asked, handing him a cookie. Liam nodded, his brow furrowed. "More than I can put into words. But I'm scared, Martha. What if this opportunity takes her away for good?" Martha gave him a knowing smile. "Love's about compromise, Liam. Sometimes you have to let go to hold on. If it's meant to be, she'll come back to you." Chloe and Liam finally sat down to have an honest conversation about their future. They met in the barn, where the scent of hay and the soft lowing of cows created a comforting backdrop. "I can't make this decision without you," Chloe admitted, her voice trembling. "You're as much a part of my life as this farm. But if I don't take this opportunity, I'll always wonder what could have been." Liam took a deep breath, his green eyes locking onto hers. "I don't want to hold you back, Chloe. I love you too much for that. But we need to find a way to make this work. For both of us." That's when Chloe proposed her bold plan, to divide her time between the farm and her new role with Green Horizons. She would spend part of the year on the road, working with the foundation and consulting for the corporation, and the rest of the year at the farm. "We can expand the team here," she explained. "Hire more hands to help with the day-to-day operations. That way, I won't feel like I'm abandoning everything we've built." Liam considered her words carefully. "It's not perfect," he admitted, "but it might just work." The next few months served as a trial period for Chloe's plan. She took on a temporary consulting role with Green Horizons, traveling to various states to meet with farmers and policymakers. Meanwhile, Liam stepped up as the primary leader of the farm, with Michael and a newly hired manager, Grace Porter, providing additional support. At first, the separation was difficult. Chloe and Liam missed each other deeply, and the distance tested their communication and trust. But they found ways to stay connected. Frequent video calls, handwritten letters, and surprise visits kept their bond strong. During one of her visits home, Chloe and Liam walked through the fields hand in hand. "I won't lie," Liam admitted. "There are days when I wish you'd never taken this job. But seeing the impact you're making, it reminds me why I fell in love with you." Chloe smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. And every time I come back here, it reminds me why I'll always choose you. The trial period proved successful, and Chloe officially accepted a part-time role with Green Horizons. With her foundation thriving and the farm flourishing under Liam's leadership, they struck a balance that allowed them both to pursue their dreams. On a crisp autumn evening, surrounded by friends and family, Chloe and Liam stood beneath the ancient oak tree on the farm, where they had first begun to truly understand each other. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the fields in golden light, they exchanged vows, promising to support each other through every challenge life might bring. As the wedding celebration wound down, Chloe and Liam shared a quiet moment on the porch. "What do you think the future holds for us?" Chloe asked, leaning against Liam's shoulder. Liam smiled, his gaze fixed on the stars above. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together. That's all that matters." Just as Chloe was about to respond, Michael rushed onto the porch, a newspaper in his hand. "You two might want to see this," he said, handing it to Chloe. The headline read, "Victoria Davis seeks early release from prison, claims new evidence proves her innocence." Chloe's heart sank as she read the article. "It looks like the fight isn't over yet," she murmured. Liam wrapped an arm around her. "Then we'll fight. Together." The scene faded into the soft glow of moonlight, leaving the promise of a new battle, and a love strong enough to withstand anything. The sun rose slowly over the Carter farm, bathing the fields in warm golden light. Chloe stood by the kitchen window, a cup of coffee warming her hands. The early morning calm was broken only by the distant clucking of chickens and the gentle rustle of leaves in the breeze. It had been a week since their wedding, and while the joyous event still lingered in her heart, the newspaper article about Victoria's bid for early release weighed heavily on her mind. Liam entered the kitchen, his hair still tousled from sleep. He kissed her on the forehead and poured himself a cup of coffee. "You've been up for hours, haven't you?" he asked, his voice laced with concern. Chloe nodded, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "I can't stop thinking about it, Liam. If Victoria manages to get out, what's to stop her from coming after us again?" Liam placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We've faced her before, Chloe. Whatever she throws at us this time, we'll handle it, together." Over the next few weeks, Chloe and Liam focused on their shared dream of making the farm a model for sustainable agriculture. The success of their organic crops and agro-tourism venture had drawn attention from nearby communities and beyond. Chloe used her connections to secure grants for local farmers, helping them transition to more sustainable practices. One day, Chloe met with Grace Porter, their newly hired farm manager, to discuss expanding the farm's operations. "I think we're ready to launch the education program," Chloe said, reviewing the plans for workshops on sustainable farming techniques. "We can invite schools, community groups, and even policymakers." Grace nodded enthusiastically. "It's a fantastic idea. People need to see firsthand what's possible when we work with the land instead of against it." Liam joined the conversation, holding a blueprint of the barn renovations. "And we'll finally have the space to host those workshops," he added. "This is becoming more than a farm. It's a movement." While their progress on the farm was encouraging, the looming threat of Victoria's potential release couldn't be ignored. Chloe met with their lawyer, Daniel Harper, to discuss the case. Victoria's claiming that new evidence exonerates her. Daniel explained, "We'll need to review it and prepare a counter-argument if her appeal moves forward." Chloe felt a familiar pang of frustration. Why can't she just let us live in peace? Daniel gave her a sympathetic look. "People like Victoria don't let go easily. But don't worry. We've built a strong case against her." The evidence we have is rock solid. That evening, Chloe shared the news with Liam. I just want this to be over, she admitted, her voice trembling. I'm so tired of fighting. Liam pulled her into his arms. You're not fighting alone, Chloe. We've built something incredible here, and no one, not even Victoria, can take that away from us. One morning, a black car pulled up to the farmhouse. Chloe and Liam exchanged a wary glance as the driver stepped out, followed by an older woman in an elegant suit. It was Emily Harper, Chloe's late father's former assistant, and the woman who had been instrumental in exposing Victoria's crimes. Emily, Chloe exclaimed, running to greet her. What brings you here? Emily smiled warmly. I wanted to see how you were doing, Chloe. And I have some news, both good and bad. Inside, over cups of tea, Emily explained that she had been following Victoria's case closely. The good news is that the evidence Victoria claims to have is weak at best. But the bad news is that she's leveraging her remaining connections to create doubt in the minds of the parole board. Chloe's jaw tightened. So, she's not giving up. No, Emily agreed, but neither should you. You've built a life worth protecting, Chloe. Don't let her take that away. Determined to channel her frustration into something positive, Chloe threw herself into her work with Edward's legacy. She proposed a new initiative called Roots of Change, aimed at empowering young farmers and fostering innovation in sustainable agriculture. At a town hall meeting, Chloe addressed a crowd of local farmers, community leaders, and families. Our farm is proof that change is possible, she said passionately. With the right support, we can transform not just our fields, but our futures. Her speech was met with thunderous applause, and several attendees approached her afterward to offer their support. One young farmer, Marcus Hayes, shared his story of struggling to keep his family's farm afloat. Your work gives us hope, he told Chloe. Thank you for fighting for all of us. The day of Victoria's parole hearing arrived, and Chloe and Liam traveled to Los Angeles to testify. The courtroom was tense as both sides presented their arguments. Chloe took the stand, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. Victoria Davis has spent years manipulating how and harming others for her own gain, she said. Releasing her now would not only endanger my family, but also send a message that justice can be bought. My father believed in doing what was right, and I will honor his legacy by standing against her. When the parole board announced their decision to deny Victoria's release, Chloe felt a surge of relief. But she knew this wasn't the end. Victoria's influence might have been diminished, but her determination was still a threat. Back at the farm, Chloe and Liam hosted a community gathering to celebrate their recent victories. Friends, family, and neighbors came together to share food, laughter, and stories under the stars. As the evening wound down, Liam took Chloe's hand and led her to the dance floor. We've come a long way, he said, his voice full of pride, and I wouldn't change a single moment. Chloe smiled, her heart swelling with gratitude. Neither would I. This is where we're meant to be. The following morning, Chloe stood on the porch, watching as the first rays of sunlight illuminated the fields. Liam joined her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. What's next? He asked, his tone playful. Chloe grinned. Anything we want. This is just the beginning. As the farm came alive with the sounds of a new day, Chloe felt a deep sense of peace. Her journey had been filled with challenges, but it had also brought her love, purpose, and a future she couldn't wait to embrace. Would you like me to add an epilogue or explore additional angles to tie everything together? And so, Chloe's journey ends, not just as a story of love and resilience, but as a reminder of the strength we all carry to rise above life's challenges. Her path may have started in defiance, but it led her to a life filled with purpose, a home built on hope, and a community transformed by her courage. What would you have done in Chloe's shoes? Do you think her choices were worth the risk she took? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Share it with someone who could use a little inspiration. And most importantly, hit that subscribe button. We've got more incredible stories coming your way. Stories of hope, redemption, and the unexpected twists that make life so unforgettable. Until next time, keep believing in the power of change, and we'll see you in the next story.